Links, it's Miss Barnes, and this is my tuning tutorial video for students and parents. So please make sure you watch this all the way through before we get started with classes next week. In this video today, we're going to be going over different types of tuning, specifically tuning with fine tuners and tuning with pegs. So, I'll show you my little demonstration quarter size here. Here are where the fine tuners are located, right over the tailpiece of the instrument. Those are what you're going to be using the most with tuning your own instrument. Those are best for small adjustments if the string is only just a little bit out of tune. You can also tune with pegs up here near the scroll. Pegs are for larger adjustments to the strings. So if your string is really out of tune, that's when you want to use a peg. I always caution my students, especially young beginners, to not use the pegs and not play with the pegs on their instrument, because if you don't know what you're doing just yet, you could turn the peg too far and end up busting a string. And that's not the end of the world if it does happen, but in our current situation, the fewer busted strings we have, the better, because I won't be able to do repairs as often as I normally can during an average school year. So, without further ado, I'll show you the app that I use and how to use it. So let's get started. Okay, so I've opened up my app store here on my iPhone. This first app that you see here labeled Tuner and Metronome is the one that I want you to go ahead and download. It's free, so it won't cost you anything, and it's nice to have a tuner and a metronome together in one app, because as we go, we're also going to be learning how to use a metronome to help us keep our tempo steady and consistent through each of our tunes. So this is the app we'll have you download, and I'll go ahead and open it up in just a moment so you can see how it works. Okay, so when you see the letter name of the string you're trying to tune, and you see the background behind that letter turn green, and a green check mark above it, that means that it's within an acceptable range. If you see something like this, where there's a flat symbol to the right of the string name, that's not in tune. The flat symbol makes the note something completely different. So if you see this flat symbol, even though everything else is green and the check mark is appearing, it means that the note is too low and you need to tune it up higher in order to match the note. All right, so now that we've gone over how to interpret the app, the tuning app, to help you, I'm going to go over some basics of peg tuning right now, because that's really the hardest part of tuning. So we've got our strings here, 4 strings on the violin, G, D, A, and E. I'm going to demonstrate how to peg tune on the A string. Really, it's the same for every string, but that's the one that will be my example. So, my A string is super out of tune right now. So what I need to do is locate the A peg, which is this one right here. When I find that, I want to make sure I'm setting the violin down on my knee firmly, and my left hand is keeping a good grip on it right here so that it doesn't slip as I'm tuning. Instead of cranking the peg all the way forward immediately, I'm going to gradually press inward this way toward the scroll as I turn it upward. And with my left thumb, I'm going to pluck the string until I hear it come closer to the A note that I need. Okay, so it's really important to remember to press inward as you turn these pegs. That's what will make them stick. Often you might see a peg slipping, like you're turning it, but it continuously keeps slipping back. That's an indication that you need to press in more as you're tuning. So now I'm in the neighborhood, a little bit sharp, and after all these years of playing, I can tell if it's sharp or flat without a tuner, but at this point you can use your tuner to guide you and make the final adjustments with your fine tuners down here. So that's the basics of peg tuning. One other problem you might run into when you're peg tuning is the peg sticking, being too sticky, like you're unable to turn it forward. You might be tempted in that situation to really crank it, but don't do that, because like I mentioned earlier, you could break a string by doing that. So let's say this peg, I'm going to pretend that this is super stuck and it's not wanting to move forward as I attempt to turn it. Instead of cranking it, I'm going to actually loosen the string way down toward me first, and then gradually work back up to the pitch I need, little by little. The more gradual you are with these adjustments, the better off you're going to be, long story short. Please see, I have a second video for you where I am droning, just playing long bows on each of my open strings. You can use this to help tune prior to each class or practice session if you need help with identifying those notes, because tuning does take some practice to get used to. So I'll be droning my notes. You can use those as a way to help match the pitches. And other than that, you're always welcome to reach out to me with tuning questions. And if something happens like breaking a string, don't worry, we can fix it, but we still want to do our best to avoid that as much as possible. Thank you so much. See you soon.